Let me show you how to make a Christmas tree topper. You guys, this is a bestseller in my Etsy shop, and I'm going to show you how I make it. You just start out with a glittery pine pick. Then I added a red, white, and green curly pick. Next, a glittery red ball pick, and finally a mini red, white, and green ball pick. I'm just layering them one on top of the other, and then I'm going to grab a 6-inch clear zip tie and secure all of those picks together and give it a quick fluff. Now it's time to trim those stems. I basically make the stems about a hand's width in length, and here I've just grabbed my Work Pro heavy duty cutters and I'm going to trim all of those stems down so they're the same length. Here I'm just going to grab some floral tape, add a pea-sized amount of hot glue to the top to secure it down, and wrap those stems. Once I get to the bottom, I'll add another pea-sized amount of glue just to make sure that that floral tape doesn't go anywhere. Okay, the next step is to make a bow. So I've grabbed a couple of pipe cleaners. I'm going to connect them together by wrapping them around one another so that we've got a longer set of pipe cleaners to attach our tree topper to the tree. I'm going to set those off to the side. Here, I'm just going to make a quick hand bow. And I'll also be adding additional tails. I'll be using this 2.5-inch green and red ribbon, and then I'll also be using a 1.5-inch red glitter and a Merry Christmas 1.5. I'll be making 2 loops and 2 tails for each bow, and for the 2.5-inch wide ribbon, which will be on the back, I'm making those loops about 5 inches in length and the tails about 18 inches in length. Before I start on my red glitter bow, I'm going to make a 36-inch tail and just layer that on top of the red and green 2.5-inch bow that we just made. So I'm laying that on top of that bow, and now I'm going to make 2 loops and 2 tails of that red glitter. Those loops are probably 3.5 inches and the tails about 17 inches. And last but not least is our Merry Christmas ribbon, and same thing here guys, 2 loops, 2 tails, those tails about 17 inches and the loops about 3.5 inches. Now I'm going to take that pipe cleaner and secure my bow stack by giving it several tight twists. And now I'm just going to pull all of those tails down before we attach it to our tree topper. Go ahead and add a small bit of hot glue right underneath that zip tie on your tree topper, and then press your bow stack down directly onto that dollop of glue for a few seconds. Then flip it over and tighten that bow stack onto your tree topper with several tight twists. Okay, let's fluff out that bow. That 2.5-inch ribbon is just going horizontally across, and then the 2 1.5-inch loops, I'm just spreading them into an X pattern and opening those loops. Here, I'm just angle trimming all of my ribbon tails. We're on to the last step. Go ahead and grab a cardboard insert. This is just from a leftover roll of 10-inch deco mesh, and we're going to curl all of our ribbon tails. To curl your ribbon tails, you're just going to start at the bottom of each ribbon tail and twist it around that cardboard insert all the way to the center of your bow. If you're not happy with that curl, you can recurl it as many times as you wish. One more quick fluff of those loops and this tree topper is finished. What do you think? Let's make another Christmas tree topper. We're going to use this green wintry spray, and then on top of that we'll add a black glittery ball spray, then a buffalo check ball spray, and finally a red winterberry. They're just stacked on top of one another, and we're going to secure them all together with a 6-inch zip tie. Now I'm going to add a dollop of glue at the top of the bundle and wrap floral tape all the way down those stems for a nice clean finish. I'll add a dollop of glue at the bottom to secure it. Here I'm just grabbing a couple of pipe cleaners and laying them off to the side while we make our bow. We're going to use a couple of 2.5-inch wide ribbons and some 1.5-inch wide ribbon. This is just a buffalo check. There'll be 2 loops and 2 tails of each. Those tails are about 24 inches in length and the loops will be 5 inches. Here I'm cutting a 36-inch strip of 1.5-inch red glitter ribbon, and I'm just laying that here in my bow maker so that I've got some extra ribbon tails. Now we'll make 2 loops and 2 tails of this 2.5-inch wide Merry Christmas ribbon. Those tails will be 24 inches and the loops will be 5 inches. Okay, let's use that 1.5 inch wide red glitter ribbon again. So 2 loops and 2 tails. Those tails will be 24 inches and the loops will be 3 inches. By the way, this bow maker that I'm using is a Bow Dabra. You can find them on Amazon. Okay, last ribbon is a 5/8 inch wide solid black glitter ribbon, and I've just made two 10-inch tails and a little button loop in the middle. I'm securing our bow stack together with those pipe cleaners, and now I'm going to attach it to our tree topper. I added a dollop of glue, and now I'm just going to press the center of that bow into those stems, and then secure it on the back with the pipe cleaners. Okay, let's trim those ends. I'm just angle trimming here, and now I'm going to curl all of my ribbon tails. This is just a cardboard insert left over from a 10-inch roll of deco mesh. You just wrap your ribbon around that cardboard insert and curl it up towards the center of your ribbon. After we get all of our ribbon tails curled, let's go ahead and fluff out our bow. I'm just making those 2.5 inch wide ribbons into an X pattern and opening the loops. Those red loops will go straight across, and then I'm gently curling under those black ribbons. How stinking cute is that? What do you think? You can find this in my Etsy shop. Let's make another tree topper. We're going to start out with the Pine Glittery Winter Pick. Then we're going to layer on top of that the red Wispy Glitter Pick, followed by these cute little elf legs complete with jingle bells. We're just layering one on top of the other. And finally, we're going to add the Christmas Glitter Ball Pick. Here, I'm just taking a 6-inch clear zip tie to secure all of those picks together. Now I'm going to use my heavy duty Work Pro cutters to trim down those stems so that they're all about 8 inches in length. Perfect. Now I'm going to grab some floral tape and wrap those stems for a nice clean finish. I'll secure the top and the bottom with a dollop of glue. I'm going to grab a couple of green pipe cleaners and intertwine them together to make an extra long pipe cleaner. We'll use this to secure our bow in just a little bit. I've grabbed my Bow Dabra and a few coordinating wired ribbon types to make our bougie bow. We're going to start out with this 2.5 inch wired ribbon. I'm going to make 2 loops and 2 tails of each ribbon type. For the 2.5 inch wide ribbon, we'll be making 24-inch tails and 4-inch loops. Okay, on to the 1.5 inch wide ribbon, you guys. How cute is this elf ribbon? We're going to start out by adding just a 36-inch single strip as a tail, and then we'll make a 2-loop, 2-tail bow with that same ribbon. You guys have seen me use this next ribbon in about every Christmas tutorial. It's the 1.5 inch wide glitter wired ribbon. It's one of my favorites, and it's actually linked in my showcase. You can just click that orange shopping cart below if you'd like some. And last but not least, we'll use the Merry Christmas ribbon. Okay, the bow is done. Let's grab that pipe cleaner and get it secured. Perfect. Let's get that added onto our topper. I'm going to add a dollop of hot glue just to keep this bow in place. I'll press the bow down on that dollop of glue, and then I'll spin that around to tie it with those pipe cleaners. Now I'm just going to take my scissors and angle trim all of those ribbon tails. And now we're going to curl them. This is just a cardboard insert left over from a used 10-inch roll of deco mesh. You're just going to curl each ribbon tail on that insert by winding it around, starting at the bottom and curling it all the way towards the center of your bow. Do this for every ribbon tail. If you're not happy with one of your ribbon curls, just recurl it. And the last step is to fluff our bow. We're just going to take those loops, pull them into an X pattern, and open them up. That's all there is to it. This beauty is finished. What do you think? You can find this in my Etsy shop. Hey crafty friends, let me show you step by step how to make this classic Christmas tree topper. We started out with a glittery pine spray. Now we have a red, green, and gold extra large ball pick that I'm just fluffing out here. We're going to layer one on top of the other and then grab a 6-inch zip tie to secure them together. Here I've grabbed my heavy duty cutters to trim those tails so that they're the same length. And now I've grabbed some floral tape that we're just going to wrap around those spines for a nice clean finish. I will use a dollop of glue at the top and the bottom to really make sure that that tape doesn't go anywhere. Perfect. Next up, we're going to make a bow. You guys, if you want to recreate this beauty and you need the measurements of all of the ribbons, you can just look at the description of this video. Here, I've grabbed 2 pipe cleaners and I'm just marrying them together for an extra long pipe cleaner. For the first layer, we'll be using this 2.5-inch red velvet ribbon. I'll be making 2 loops and 2 tails. By the way, I'm using a bow dabra to help me with today's bow. You can find them on Amazon. These tails are 28 inches in length and the loops are 5 inches. For the next layer, we'll be using this super cute 2.5-inch wide vintage Christmas ornament ribbon. These tails will be 28 inches in length. The loops also will be 5-inch loops, and we'll be doing 2 loops and 2 tails. Next up is a 1.5-inch gold ribbon. We're going to start out with a single tail, so I've just cut a 50-inch strip. I fold it in half to find the center, and then add that down into the bow dabra. Now we'll use that gold and make a bow, 2 loops, 2 tails. Those loops will be 4 inches, and the tails will be 27 inches. The next ribbon will be a 1.5-inch lime green. We'll start out with the 50-inch single tail strip, and then we'll make a 2 loop and 2 tail bow. Next up is a 1.5-inch wide red, white, and green plaid. We'll start out with a 36-inch tail strip. Then we'll fold it in half to identify the center and add it to our bow stack. Okay, last layer in our bow stack here, guys. We're going to take that ribbon, make a 24-inch tail, a 1-inch single center button loop, and then another 24-inch tail. Now I'm going to compress that with the wand of my bow dabra, and while that's in place, I'm going to angle trim all of my ribbon tails. So I'm just coming down about 1 inch on the side of that ribbon strip and cutting up diagonally to the corner. We'll do this for every tail. Now we can grab that pipe cleaner that we made earlier and secure it around our bow stack, giving it several tight twists. Then we'll take a minute to pull all of those ribbon tails downward. Now we'll add some hot glue right below that zip tie on our tree topper, and we're going to press that bow stack right into that dollop of glue, giving it about 20 seconds to dry. Then we'll just spin it around and then give those pipe cleaners several tight twists to anchor that bow onto our tree topper. Here I'm just fluffing out my loops. I'm pulling those 2.5-inch wide ribbons into an X pattern in opposite directions and opening those loops. I'll do the same thing with the 1.5-inch ribbon. Now it's time to curl our ribbon tails. To curl your ribbon tails, you're just going to use a leftover cardboard insert from a roll of 10-inch deco mesh, and you'll wrap that ribbon strip right around that cardboard insert, going up towards the center of your bow. We'll do this with every single ribbon tail. If you're not happy with your ribbon tails, you can recurl them as many times as you need. And that's all there is to it. What do you think? Let's make a candy cane themed tree topper. We're going to start out with that green glittery pine pick, then a red curly pick, a swirled pick, and finally a red and white lollipop. They're layered just one on top of the other. I've secured them all with a 6-inch zip tie. I trimmed the ends of those stems so that they're all about 8 inches in length. And now I'm going to wrap those stems with floral tape for a nice clean finish. I secure the top and the bottom with a little dollop of hot glue. Okay, let's make our bow. I'm just going to make an extra long pipe cleaner by combining 2 together, and we're going to use a variety of 1.5 and 2.5-inch wide wired red and white ribbon. So we're going to start out with a 28-inch tail and a 5-inch loop. I'm just measuring that ribbon on my ruler to make sure that those loops are the same size. Now we're going to move on to the next ribbon and follow that exact same measurement pattern. And again, just 2 loops and 2 tails. Next up is our 2.5-inch candy cane ribbon. You guys, we're going to continue on with the pattern. So we'll have 2 tails, 2 loops. Those tails will be 28 inches in length and those loops will be 5-inch loops. So you'll measure 10 inches of ribbon on that ruler and then fold it over for that 5-inch loop. Okay, we're moving on to our last ribbon type, the 1.5-inch white. We're going to start out by cutting a 36-inch strip for tails, and so I'm just going to lay that in my hand right on top of our bow stack, and now we'll make the actual bow. I'm measuring out a 26-inch tail and then just a single 2-inch little button loop in the center. And then we're going to grab those pipe cleaners and secure our bow stack with several tight twists. Here, I'm just pulling all those ribbon tails down. Okay, now we can add our bow. So I'm just adding a dollop of hot glue and then pressing that bow stack onto our stems. Then we'll twist those pipe cleaners on the back several times. And now we're going to fluff out our bow. You guys, all we're doing here is pulling those loops into an X pattern and then opening them up. Now it's time to trim those ribbon tails. I'm just angle trimming them by coming down about an inch on the right hand side and cutting up to the corner. We'll do that for all of our ribbon tails. Then we're going to curl those ribbon tails. I prefer to use a leftover cardboard insert from a 10-inch roll of deco mesh. And guys, all we're going to do is wrap that ribbon right around that cardboard insert towards the center of our bow. If you don't like your curl, you can recurl it as many times as you need. So we're going to curl all of our tails, and then this tree topper will be finished. And that's all there is to it. What do you think? Drop a comment below and let me know which one was your favorite.